Amen.
Well, we can guess. Can we have a guessing game?
Sure.
All right.
Where we gonna be at?
Right.
2 Corinthians.
There you go.
In the Bible. And you don't have to put up with me tonight. And I'm getting over a cold, so. It's all right. Last week, we don't have any review for this week because there was enough in these that I had to get. We're going to come in and tickle each other's ears. We're going to study what Paul had to say. And did Paul have a lot to say?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So tonight we're going to talk about working with the Corinthians last week on chapter 8 on getting them ready. Committed to give a year ago and getting them back on track, but Daddy's teaching them now how to do it with a cheerful heart, and he's even got a little bit of sarcasm kind of pick up to and look at for each other. So let's start off with reading chapter 9, and we're going to go all the way to 9 verses. I just don't think we can get past any much more. And it's about all right. So we'll ask Mr. Doug to start us off.
Now it is superfluous for me to write to you about the ministry for the saints. For I know your readiness, of which I boast about you to the people of Macedonia, saying that Achaia has been ready since last year, and your zeal has stirred up most of them.
3.
Yet I have sent the brethren, lest our boasting of you should be in vain in this respect, that, as I said, you may be ready.
Sure.
Otherwise, if some
Macedonians.
Macedonians come with me and find that you are not, we would be humiliated, to say nothing of.
Therefore I thought it necessary to exhort the brethren that they would go before unto you to make out beforehand your bounty, whereof you had no knowledge before, that the same might be of consciousness.
6.
Sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will also.
Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion. Be careful giver.
8.
And God is able to make all grace abound. Times you may abound in every good work.
As it is written, righteousness endures forever.
Here we go.
Good job. Right on. All right, so tonight we're going to really study kind of Paul's perspective on how God wants us to give. Not only just the perspective, but our heart content on it. And the actions that we're really, an action of giving in our faith is our faith. And so really the heart content and the action that is the very essence of who we are as Jesus followers. And the way we give is a reflection of how we understand the sacrifice of Jesus. If you really put it towards the cross and giving, it helps put it in perspective. And we'll kind of go into some of the things that Paul's helping them understand. Again, these are great, great verses that we're going to go through tonight. And so we'll try to pull some of that in and as we go through some of this and just kind of unpack what Paul has for us. So in verse 1, he says the specific ministering Paul has in mind is the financial support of the blank saints. Who are they collecting for? Who are they collecting for?
The saints.
And where?
Jerusalem.
Yep, that's right. And so we can't go through a word that Doug said so perfectly, superfluous. You said it so elegantly. Superfluous. What does it mean?
Superfluous.
Yeah, what does superfluous mean? Surplus, yeah. Or what else?
Abundance.
There's an abundance. Like it's really actually those are kind of words that are similar to it, but it really means unnecessary. There's a great need to not have to say it. There's a great need to not have to say it. In abundance, I really don't have to say it. Isn't that weird how he's saying that? So unnecessary, especially through thorough or through being enough. There's enough implication here that you really shouldn't have to say it yet. He's saying
Unnecessary abundance.
yeah, unnecessary. So he should excuse me, he shouldn't have to say it, but he is. But he is. So Paul's saying that there really isn't a need to be writing this yet. He's writing to them. So it kind of says a lot about where their relationship is at the point that he's writing this letter. They've gone through a lot of stuff together, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you think about that, when you've gone through a difficult time with somebody and you've restored the relationship, what happens when you're for the next few months or few years? Kind of tiptoe a little bit, right? It's a little awkward. Yeah, it's just a little awkward, and yet you're on better terms, but you're still careful. Does that make sense? And so I think what Paul's kind of doing here is he's careful. He's saying what he needs to say just to make sure it's out there because they've gone backwards. He's making sure they're going down the right path. So Paul's always going to be teaching, and he's always going to be encouraging as he's in there teaching. So the basic idea, I like this, is how I read in some of the commentary. The basic idea is, I don't even need to write this, reminding you about the collection, because you're already ready and willing to give. Of course, if the Corinthian Christians were really as ready and willing as Paul seems to indicate, he really wouldn't need to write this at all. That was good commentary. I had to read that out. Because why is he saying these things? Because he's checking them. In line with what they had agreed to do. And he wants it handled. So this relationship is still really healing. He's really still working on the healing of this relationship. And Paul seems to be testing the waters, if you ask me. When you're reading the section, you can kind of see that he's making sure to lay steps out for them too. He's teaching still. And he's going to trust, but what? Verify. He's going to trust, but verify. And we do that. In newly restored relationships, you're given a little bit of rope, but you're making sure it's still tight and you can see the other end of it. You don't let it go out of your sight. And that's kind of what's happening here. So in verse 2, at the same time, when you see verse 2, for I know your readiness, of which I boast people in Macedonia, saying that Achaia has been ready since last year, and your zeal has stirred up most of them. Kind of he throws out there, hey, your readiness is stirring up others' readiness. So don't back out.
I'm guessing he's teaching the people of Macedonia, but they have many followers.
There's many followers, sure. Yeah. Because Macedonia, remember, the churches are like Philippi and the Bereans and Thessalonica. So there's a lot of stuff going in each one of those, but he's reminding them that their big gift that they promised is helping others to have that spur on that energy too.
Yeah, but it's a false teacher. Paul is like most of us churches. All we want is the money.
Yeah, all I want money. Yeah, all I want is money. So at that same time that he's talking to them, Paul's done trying to persuade them regarding this. He's kind of in the mood. He's kind of in the mode of reminding them, hey, this is it. You gotta pony up and he said to do because you're also other churches know about it and you got to do what you said you do. And he's saying it in a pretty encouraging way. So Paul really is encouraging them in the manner of giving. He's teaching us all right now in our heart content and the things that we commit to do. We have to stay in committal. We have to stay in the mode and continue moving forward. And so he's kind of pretty much done persuading him. Now he's helping them understand the heart content of how they agreed to do it. And it's not worth it in Christianity. In faith, you shouldn't do things because you're talked into it. You should do things because you know God's drawing you into it. And it's the same thing with our commitments. You make a commitment to God, you got to stick with your commitments. It's hard when I don't make my commitments. It breaks my heart. It makes Ed pretty upset too, I'm sure, because he's got to pick up my slack, right? So when we don't make our commitments, it should bother us. It should hurt. Because we're We're not here doing it for other people. We're here doing it for the Lord.
You know, when we to do everything that we want to for God and for others. But as time goes on, that desire, what Paul is doing here, as it says at the end, is your zeal.
Yes.
You know, and that's what needs to stay. Sometimes we got a lot of fire under these pews.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we got to get some tappers in the pews, some seats, some seat heaters. Maybe you can connect some.
And we don't want to make it electric either.
Yeah. Get us out of our pews, right? So he was really kind of last week in 2 Corinthians 8, he was giving them an example of the Macedonian Christian. And also he was talking about the example of Jesus. So now Paul's really encouraging them in the manner of how their heart should be in giving. So process, and he brought it up as zeal. Your zeal has stirred up the majority of churches. So in their sphere of influence in Macedonia, the Corinthians being back on task again and getting ready to give their portion of what they said to give is stirring up that zeal of other churches too. And Paul kind of brings that into perspective, like, hey, this isn't all about you. Don't forget you're also influencing other churches around you. So, don't back out. That's kind of what you're hearing, saying, don't back out now. There's an example of the majority of the Christians' willingness. So, how do you think God measures our willingness?
By our actions.
Yeah, because our actions, but sometimes people can fake actions, right? How does God view our willingness? Through the heart. Yes. Yeah, through the heart. Through our heart. Because we can fake it, can't we? And we're pretty good at it.
Only to each other.
Only to each other. That's exactly right. Yes.
But you know, whenever we did started Revelation Sunday night,
Yeah.
when it talks about the heart in the Greek, does anybody remember what that meant? All of you, the whole being. That's what heart means. Our whole being. Do people see our whole being as a zeal for God? I mean, when we leave here, do people, where do you guys go to? These Baptist church, I'll make check that out.
I'll have to check it out. There you go.
I mean, there's a difference between if you say, okay, I promised the church, here's my offering,
I
or
have to.
I made this promise to God and I want to fulfill it, and so you just do it. So it's kind of like your attitude.
And your giving is funny. It's reflective of where you are in your walk with Him.
That's exactly right.
It's a measurement. So willingness is the same way. It's not just about tithing. When Paul's talking to them about a zeal, and a zeal is not measured in money. A zeal is measured in your heart. And so this whole chapter is really of who you are in here, and it should be reflective in how you give and how you live your life as a Christian follower. So the thing that's important here is he's saying that they were zealous. His willingness is really measured only by who? And as you act that out, it comes out. It's an overflow into your life, and the overflow of your heart usually comes out where? Right here, right, Sherry? Right, that's where it comes out. Yeah, that's where mouth. The things that are going on in here comes out of my mouth all the time. Not so good. So I can be pretty ugly. So those things are things that he's trying to remind them of who measures this. 5, Paul seems to really be teaching as he encourages at the same time. And look at verses 3 and 5. But I'm sending the brothers, that you may not prove empty in this matter, so that you may be ready, as I said. Otherwise, if some Macedonians come with me and find that you're not ready, we'd be humiliated, to say nothing of you. Kind of being a little sarcastic. He's kind
it's okay if I brag on you, but you shouldn't be a Pharisee doing
I think it's a little bit of that, but also, hey, don't back out like you had. He's been boasting about how they have come so far and they're getting back on the restoration path, and so it would be humiliating if he
Put
didn't
it up again.
if they screwed it up again. So it's really another example of the relationship between them is still kind of sensitive. And we see that in people that make mistakes or they're in a restored relation for Paul and the Corinthians.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the time with the posse. And we didn't know the names of the posse, did we? But they're coming because they're part of just the crew. They're part of the people that are of leadership. They go from church to the line and supporting the growth of the Church of Jesus Christ.
It's the Baptist Association.
It was the Baptist Association, yes. Lots of chickens died. It really seems so. It appears Paul's being just a bit sarcastic. Us to hear tonight of this when I was studying. The playful sarcasm kind of continues with Paul. After all, Corinthians, you don't want the Macedonians to see that you are unwilling to give. We don't want a case where we, not to mention you, should be ashamed of this confident and on the spotlight. Man, you don't want to back out. The Macedonians are coming along too with that leadership group, and you don't do what you're supposed to do. What's that going to do for not only you, but what about the Macedonians that are traveling with us? Again, all things he shouldn't have to say. You can see where they're at in the relationship that he's saying it anyway.
But isn't it true that it's boastful and prideful? It's not.
I think there's a difference in boasting about what he's doing. He's not boasting about
It's encouragement.
yes.
This boasting is encouragement.
And it's not the type of boasting that we understand.
That was where you go sarcasm. Because I was going with the other definition.
Yeah.
It was fitting.
Sure. So that's good. That's a good question to ask. That's what we're here for. Ask these good questions and get them out there so we can handle them together.
I think the sarcasm, though, is stemming from being so confident.
Well, I think there's some, yeah.
You know?
This chapter's about the heart, so you're right. There's humility in that.
Yes.
Yes, instead of being like that, yeah, pompous or arrogant.
Yes.
There, he's for energy or time or tithes, whatever we're giving, it needs to be from the right place. So, what I think is neat about this passage is, first, he's straight and direct, and there's some personality in Paul that we get tonight, and that's kind of interesting. It's fun to pull out, and we shouldn't miss it. So that's why I wanted to bring that. Paul really wanted the whole business of the collection to be completed and over with, so that when he shows up, there's an end. And I think that's an important point, because there were rumors that were started by false teachers about Paul thinking of where that money needed to go in. And a lot of times we can get tunnel vision with money in ministry and only think about it versus our checkbook recollection. You want that handled before he gets there. Also, it keeps him out of that dealing at all for him. So that's kind of what we're hearing at the same time in this part of the scripture that we're studying tonight. All right, so he wanted that completed before he even remotely, anybody could say or manipulate his. Very concerned that giving be a matter of what? What do you think? He was very concerned with the giving be a matter of generosity, or generosity, and not a matter of and grudging obligation at that point as well. He didn't want to do this. This can happen. dancing down the aisle to give their tithe. You ever been to church like that? It's fun. I'm not saying that's what you give to the Lord. I don't know. Is like on Sunday a happy moment? I don't know. Is it?
I sure hope so.
Me too.
Grudgingly, the way I would look at it is, you know what, you might as well not even give it.
That's exactly
Nothing to God.
not ready to deal with your heart because it needs to come from a place that's been restored. Our salvation is priceless. There isn't anything we have down here that is worth what we're to be reminded of that when I'm studying this week. Sometimes I get caught up in what I got and don't got.
I did the same.
Yes. Yeah. It kind of makes it a little bit easier to comprehend. And with him is a smile. It just is. Sorry guys, I put up my coffee thing. It's the last part of it, and I hang on to it forever. Terrible. Alright. So not a grudging obligation, but a generous heart. A generous heart. This is I wanted to read this verse out. The point is this. What a famous verse. Sow sparingly will also reap sparingly. Whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. A good illustration is how a farmer throws seed out. Yeah. You get me? So here's a great little so farmers sowing seed may feel he loses giving money. We see it as a loss sometimes. I don't know about you, but some people do. They see it as a loss, like you're giving it. So what does a farmer do when he's planting that seed?
I really use that for this thing. I almost got enough for it.
Yes. What does a farmer get when he's dropping seed? He's planting more crops to come. But just as the farmer gives the seed in anticipation of a future harvest, where's our harvest? Where is our harvest? Amazing. In this world, they want, hey, I can't give. I can't provide.
And they want results just like that.
You got to tend to it, you got to love it, you got to work for it, you got to do the things you got to do in order to get it.
I heard, how well you want to be blessed, you want to be blessed.
Yeah. I mean, it's all in how you look at it here. And the farmer lets the seed out so that he can grow a harvest. That's every seed going to produce. And he says it'll come back tenfold. So let's look at that. So what would happen if the farmer saves the seed? And eventually what happens to the bad seed? Exactly right. So with our tithes and offerings and Paul really is helping to understand that it's that content. How are you doing here? How are you doing with contentment? So what do we reap when we give? We reap blessings that are both what? Yes, material and spiritual. Church, do we get material things, blessings from that? God says me in this. If I won't open the gates for you, right? That's what he says. Don't steal from me. Exactly, and that's God. And as he is helping us understand that tonight, it's contentment level. And as you grow in your love, and your understanding of Jesus Christ, you get content. really, we can trust that God will provide for the giving heart. If we're content, if we're generous, if we are, diligent in our giving and our tithes and offerings and our tithe and offering, then what does God say about it? What does Philippians 4:19 say? Philippians 4:19. Pull up 4:19 for us, if you would, sir. Or somebody look it up. Philippians 4:19.
And my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus.
Oh, he'll supply us all portion. He'll supply how much? He'll supply 90% of what I need. No, but I'll say, and my God, listen to that. You have to have a relationship. Yes. My God will supply every need of yours according to who? What I want in my list. To his riches, where? Right there. In glory. That's the thing. We switch our love and need and want for and that works for bad because but we switch it for the riches. We switch it for seeing the face of Jesus. And he says, I know you. We switch it for that stuff. And that is Christ. Because
everything fulfilled, everything he gave back to us with the heart. He gives everything what we need to give our whole.
and we do one thing. Not one thing, not eight things. Or maybe that's 12 things. You only give it a few percent of your heart to him. It can be measured up with what he gave. You can't come away from that thinking that you can only give a little. And I think contentment goes along with the study of grace. As you continue to study grace, you want to walk away with a little bit more contentment. And if you're not with Jesus, specifically what he did for me at the cross, walk away with a little bit more contentment and understanding of grace and love and the kind of thing instead of the things we get in our hands or
That's grace, God's riches and righteousness. That's it.
it's given to us according to the riches and glory of Jesus Christ. That's a study of grace from the beginning of your life of believing the salvation life of Jesus in your heart. Thank God that you're stuck there in this world. The rest of your life you should study grace. Richness that we get. So as we continue to grow in our understanding and love of Jesus Christ, that's the riches that he's going to give you here and there. And so also we get spiritually. So what do we get? How can we trust God here and in eternity? So let's look at Matthew 19. What does Matthew 19:29 say? get from having some material thing. Contentment far from material wants. It's found in the bottomless pool of grace, and that's Mr. Kevin on that one part. I love it. My study got contentment is a level of faith, only found far from religion. It's found in the bottomless pool of grace. You with me? Good path to the sower and bread for food, and man, we still got all the way to 15 to go. I can't wait to get to thanks be to God for his gift, which is what? Yeah, the plan of salvation in Jesus Christ's life given for me and given for you. So tonight, we're going to work on an opportunity. I finished early for a prayer. We have a prayer opportunity for you to come forward if you need some prayer time.
We got a song invitation.
We got a song. You can contemplate the buzz in the seat.